Hey there, hi there, ho there, this is RHJunior, RHJunior Reality Check coming to you live over the internet through a system of tubes known as YouTube, bringing you the equivalent of the boob tube here in my little show Spleen Squeezins. We'll be talking about a little bit of this, a little bit of that, talking about some of the new anime that's coming out today, or rather, that has come out fairly recently anyway. Do a little drawing, do a little artwork, do a little discussion about politics, religion, and well, that pretty much covers the whole spectrum, doesn't it? We will not be talking sports because I hate sports. So you just have to live with that one. Anyway, please tune in. Please make contribution to keep the show on the internet. Please be making contribution to keep artists from not starving to death. As always, I'm shaking the tin cup. For those of you who like my stuff, who like my writings, my drawings, my fan fictions, we got bugs flying around here. Got those, the weather's warmed up just enough that the little no-see-ums have come back out, and naturally they swarm to my computer screen and try and fly up my nose, and kind of a drag. Trust me on this. It's just real drag. You're sitting there, hi there. Alright. Alright, let's see here. Where's the header? Yes. I've really got to get some different background animated images for this show. Just have something different. I mean, you've all seen these images hundreds and thousands of times, literally, and I'm getting sick of them myself. And some of them are still cool, but like this one, and some of them are, oh, this artist sucks. Yeah, that's artwork I did back in like 2003. Man, I feel old. Let's see, 2003, that's 15 years ago. Back when I still had a little bit of youth left. The reason I wasn't on I haven't been on the air in the past couple of days, I just have not been up to it. I just have not fun. Well, Monday I was crashed out, and Tuesday, last minute my guild on World of Warcraft had a huge raid, and I attended for the first time. Got to put in the show. Wave the flag, let them know I'm there, that kind of thing. If you're gonna be a member, you're gonna be a member of something. You ought to put in an appearance once in a while. But I don't usually do the raids with the scheduling and all that. I hate having schedules. I really do. I really do hate having schedules. Because it's always, all you're doing up until that time ticks over is you're just waiting for that thing. You can't concentrate on anything. At least I can't. And it just sort of gets on my nerve. I do not know how long I'm going to be on tonight. It's cold and chilly, and I'm very sleepy. Very tired. I went to bed last night at a fairly decent hour last night. Around about midnight. But I slept till 2 in the afternoon today. My word. I'm just not able to get a good night's sleep anymore. My body's hurting in so many different ways. This keeps up, I'm gonna start. I don't know. I don't want to use sleeping pills. I don't want to exactly knock back a shot of whiskey every night just to knock myself out. Because I've never tasted whiskey, and I'm fairly certain I wouldn't like it. My kidneys and everything else have already had a hard enough time of it. They already do have a hard enough time of it. Now, let's see here. Come on, go on. Just stupid thing, just won't roll over, won't turn over. Hello, Mr. Cartoon Critic. It's just you and me against the world today. Looks like. Oh my. And the live stream is still, you know, YouTube is still crapping its pants because my video output is so low. I'd like to know what it is I'm supposed to do to fix that. You can't. It's infuriating. I'm sorry. You know, you're the ones with all the algorithms and the programs and the software and the hardware and all this other stuff that's supposed to make this possible. You know, when did you start, you know, crapping your pants every 5 minutes? Why is that my fault? Oh my. I gotta. Okay. Let's see. Gonna pull up some information here. Okay. Well, I would like to. I've got some things I'd like to that I'd like to talk about, but certain of the items I think I'll wait until there are at least 2 or 3 more people. Wait for it. I'm trying to pull up a particular image. Oh, of course not. I can't pull up the image. I swear, I want to kick whoever messed up Google's image search up, because you know I want to look at the image. I don't want to look at the copyright. I don't want to look at the page it came from. I want to look at the image. I want to look at a full-sized image. But no, that's too much to ask. No, instead make us jump around with this crap. No. Everybody's so greedy. Everybody is so stingy and greedy. They really are. It is so frustrating. You know, they'll put copyrights all over. They put copyrights all over images that are being mass-produced and going to be seen everywhere anyway. Don't use, or we'll sue, and we'll get rich off you. You know, companies that have absolutely nothing to fear from little penny ante people who are going out there suing the pants off them. Meanwhile, the people who are getting screwed, you know, the little guys, you might as well be spitting in the wind. Copyright laws are a mess. My work, pretty much all my work is public domain. It's actually Creative Commons license, rather. I submit it out. You can use it. You can reproduce it. You can copy it. Yes, you can post this on your website. All I require, the only requirement I make, if you're going to copy my stuff and post it someplace else, is that you give me attribution. It's an attribution license. You have to give me attribution that I am the original artist and designer. if it's the original work, you have to say, this was drawn by, etc. If you copy it and make changes to it or make a variation on it, you derivative work, aka, you have to say the original work was done by RHJunior. It's someplace you have to put up a notification someplace that I am the copyright holder. Other than that, I don't care, because if you're going to be willing to, it's foolishness after a certain point. I mean, I want to be paid for the work I do, for the artwork I draw, but I'm sorry, people are trying to skin the same rabbit twice, is what it is. And I can't. I'd love to be able to. I'd love to. Have them. Use my character in some big Hollywood production, and I go, "This is my product. What are you doing?" And come away with millions of dollars in some big settlement. When is that going to happen? It's not going to happen. It's never going to happen. Even if they do it, even if they get caught, even if they get dragged into court, I'll be lucky. I would be lucky to get pocket change back, and. I'd be lucky if they covered the cost of going to court. It happens all the time. The guys that Sid and Marty Krofft got screwed over by McDonald's. McDonaldland is literally a point-for-point rip-off of Sid and Marty Krofft's show, H.R. Puffin Stuff. The characters are so similar, it's embarrassing. It's like they didn't even try. And Sid and Marty Krofft took them to court and sued them, and you know what they got? A couple of $1,000. And Sid and Marty Krofft is pretty much off the air now, and Ronald McDonald has still been prancing around McDonaldland to this day. So they're, hurrah for the copyright laws. You're just essentially worthless. They have about as much effectiveness as a scarecrow standing in a cornfield. It only fools the exceptionally stupid crows. Oh yes, I've heard about Tumblr is purging accounts that have not safe for work content. Well, I'm of two thoughts. I'm on several thoughts on that. Okay, first thought is, as a Christian, I should be in support of this. But then the second thought is, as a Christian, I'm questioning: is it really making a difference? All it's doing is, annoying a bunch of people who draw dirty pictures for a brief while. It's not changing anything. It's just shuffling the deck chairs. Because every last one of those guys, they're making money. They're making their living off that stuff. They're just going to move to another site and continue. And it's only going to cause them a brief amount of aggravation. Hooray for Tumblr. But the problem is Tumblr has all the moral and ethical judgment of a stunned herring anyway. Which brings up my second point. Is that, with all the things that Tumblr does, is still allowing. Now, there's a third point that, as I've said before, I am extremely reluctant. I am extremely reluctant to give any form of censorship power to an authority figure, particularly a government. But corporations too, I'm kind of leery of that too, because let's face it, they are effectively providing our infrastructure, and giving a bureaucracy The power of censorship is like giving the village idiot a loaded flamethrower to play with. Because they are not it's not going to be too long before they're setting things on fire you didn't want burnt. I submit to you that we live in a society where a perfectly innocent man can be accused of rape and go to prison for 20 years, and the woman who victimized him won't even get a slap on the wrist. We live in a society where Tumblrine has come out and they sincerely, in all sincerity, state that they read or saw something or heard something and it was like being raped. No, honey, it wasn't. It was like being upset. And they're calling it virtual rape. And they insist, you know, they're equating everything to being raped anymore. Everything except actual rape, you know. So long as it doesn't happen to one of them. Now, you can see where I'm going here. Is people can make these outlandish accusations, and it's not just for, you know, against men for particular actions. You know, I mean, they are banning the old song, the old winter, the old holiday season song, "Baby It's Cold Outside," because they are proclaiming that it. You know, they are insisting that it is glamorizing date rape. So you can see where this would go. No, it won't take but a matter of minutes. They will find perfectly innocuous things to be offensive, containing sexual innuendo, glamorizing this or perverting this and that, and they'll get just about everything banned on the most spurious charges. That's why I don't like censorship as a principle. It's just begging for trouble. We've already got trouble. We don't need to be giving them any more ammo. And considering how Tumblr behaves, think about all the people on Tumblr. We're letting a bunch of mentally ill people decide what will qualify as not safe for work content. We've already got people that insist that Christmas nativities are a horrible, offensive thing to have out in public. You know, how long do you think it'll be before the ball bounces in that direction? What do you think? Almost inevitable. So, basically, what I'm saying is that, okay, you know, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking I should feel good about this, but I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. Plus, it's the equivalent of a fire alarm. People trying to exercise censorship against sexually explicit or suggestive material on the internet. The phrase "fire alarms in hell" comes to mind. I don't know. Beyond that, I can say with all sincerity that one of the things that I regret in my life is the first time I ever, as a teenager, I popped open a sexually explicit book. I was at the public library, found a couple, you know, they had the paperback racks, and I started flipping through a few of them, and I found some that you would not believe were out on the public shelves. Got me an education I could have really lived without. Yeah. Yeah. They claim that one site had child porn. I'd be on a panic mode too if I were them, in that regard, because kiddie porn is about the only thing left that people are universally agreed on should be banned. And even that's not really true, considering the people that are putting it up don't think so. But I've been warning people. I mean, when I was in the furry fandom on the forums, when I was hanging out in front on the film fiction forums, I said, you guys, look at some of the content you're putting up here. They say, well, the courts have decided that it's make-believe characters and completely fiction and make-believe, so it doesn't really count. And I'm like, yeah, that was an arbitrary decision by a judge someplace. Another arbitrary decision is all it needs to turn it back over. And third, when are you going to be? And considering the way people, the way people respond, even the most licentious society has a great degree of abhorrence for this sort of thing, but you're tolerating it. That doesn't make you, tolerating something that is repulsive does not make you enlightened. See how tolerant I am. Tolerant I am. We tolerate this, therefore we are enlightened and noble and superior to you. No, you're not. No, you're not. You're stupid. Because the people and the things you're tolerating, they're exploiting you. And what's going to happen? I predicted this. I said sooner or later they're going to change the laws around again so that drawn pictures count too. And most people aren't going to care what the judge says, fella. They're going to see this stuff and they are going to raise a hue and cry that you're not going to believe. And you know what's going to happen is that all these people that you are being so loving and tolerant to, they'll bail out like rats out of a sinking ship, and you'll be left taking all the incoming fire. Like I told you in the past, I found out through the most interesting venues that there was some guy drawing porn of my nip and tuck characters and of my of my other characters and posting them on his website. And I along with a couple of other artists sent his internet service provider a cease and desist. His website host rather, and he disappeared. And all he did was up anchor and find someplace else to post it. And he's apparently been doing this 3 or 4 times ever since. Just things get to you. Find somebody who doesn't care and just post up there. He'll just move it around. I've done various searches for images of my stuff and haven't found anything yet again. But I figure I know people like this. They don't quit. And what has he done? He's taken advantage of these people's delusions of sympathy. He's taken advantage of their sympathy and ruined their reputation while he bails out the back door. Well, Riley, the law may say depiction. It depends on which country you're in. That's the thing of it. That's another thing about it. Because what counts as a depiction changes from legal area to legal area, from legal zone to legal zone. So they think they're in the clear. These fools think they're in the clear. They think that they're being nobler and more enlightened and more liberated than all of us oppressed pigs. And meanwhile their own calamity is coming up from the rear. Yeah. Okay, let's move on that subject. They're doing it. The people that do this stuff, they're idiots. Tumblr is really not going to fix much, I don't think. Like I said, I'll believe it when I see it, and even then I'm going to wait for the other shoe to drop. And it's usually whenever they start talking about reforming something, I'm like, yeah, the reforms usually go the wrong direction. Anyway, moving on. Let's move on to something. Let's really move on to something else, because I don't want to be sitting here for hours talking about that stuff. We've been sitting here for 26 minutes talking about it. That's too much. Now, okay. Now, I've been watching a little anime, seen a couple of things. Okay, I talked about Goblin Slayer last time we had a show. That's it's what you can safely call a pretty harsh anime. I found another anime show that I find I like rather much. Let me pull it up here. It's called That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime. Okay, it's a pretty goofy premise, okay? Basically, the idea is a pretty common one in most anime stories these days. I don't know what the name of the genre is, but basically, you got a protagonist, Joe Average, who gets killed or dies of a heart attack or something. He dies and gets reincarnated into a fantasy world. One that's rather similar to most fantasy role-playing games and how it's structured. And he goes on to be, the big hero. That doesn't sound very original, especially with all the ones that have done it. But this one really stands out. I've seen several different anime shows, and this one, in that vein, stands out pretty good. Particularly the main character, Rimuru. He gives his name as Rimuru. And, basically he's just a middle-aged guy. He's literally, he's almost 40. And, just a bland, ordinary guy. And he gets stabbed in a random street mugging. And he dies, and he gets reincarnated as a slime, or actually what we would call it is a jelly. When I think slime, I think something that oozes all over. The Japanese version of a slime is like a little round jelly. And the thing of it is that whatever force reincarnates him gives him certain powers. First of all, he gets a sort of an artificial intelligence that he calls Sage, that advises him, answers his questions, tells and instructs him on how to use his powers. And his power is that he gains the abilities of anything he eats. That's just generally speaking. One of the first things he eats is a plant, a magical plant that is used in healing potions, and he gains the ability to create healing potions at will. Basically, what he does, he basically min-maxes the absolute crap out of it after he figures it out, because he can also gain powers from things he just absorbs. He can apparently store things without digesting them in a sort of a space pocket. But he can still imitate their powers, abilities, attributes, that sort of thing. It's very slow paced, because at first he wakes up in a cave full of magic minerals and plants, which is inhabited by a dragon that has been there for 300 years, imprisoned for crimes it committed. And he becomes friends with this dragon, because basically it's been there for 300 years, and it's literally bored to tears. And eventually they become friends, and the slime Rimuru tries to free him, but is unable to, because because of a spell cast on the dragon that keeps him trapped in place. So he does the only thing: he engulfs the dragon, magic force field and all. And with the idea is that eventually, either he or the dragon will become powerful enough to someday break the spell entrapping the dragon and set him free. And of course, by doing this, he upsets the balance of power in the monster forest where this cave is at, because even trapped in a cave, the dragon was powerful enough to keep the peace, basically, by intimidating every other race around. The first group that Rimuru meets after he leaves the cave is a tribe of goblins, and these guys are pretty pathetic. They're small, tiny. You know, there's some of them are cute, actually, and but they're very weak, and they are being and they're basically threatened by every other race of monsters in the jungle, in the forest. And so he becomes their protector, because while he was wandering around that cave, he had been devouring all these magic stones, magic plants. He had killed several monsters, such as a giant scorpion and a snake, and gained their powers. And basically, he's min-maxing like crazy. He's already insanely powerful. And he becomes their protector, and it's from there on. It's a very charming. It's very funny. It's got a nice sense of humor. It's very light tone, very cheerful, very optimistic. And what's fundamentally different about this is that in most of these stories, the hero who gets dropped into the other world, he's either a bitter cynic, or he's a gormless idiot, or he's both. But this one, he's actually competent. He was a salaryman. He was a businessman, and he's learned, and consequently, he knows a great deal about managing people, or people like things, anyway. And he helps. He basically gets the goblin tribe on their feet. And he basically becomes their king and leader. He ends up subduing a tribe of dire wolves and becoming their chieftain as well. And the story goes on from there. And it's not very fast paced. I'll say that. I've watched 9 episodes. That's all they have on Crunchyroll right now. But is very charming and very witty and very funny, and I'm having a great deal of fun watching this character just grow in ability and power. And what's interesting, he's a competent hero, which is very unusual for these things. Now, The story has some very interesting, sentimental, soulful touches too. Is in one of the early episodes, like I think episode 4, you get your stereotypical cookie cutter villain, some local duke of the king, who's basically being a jackass to Rimuru and to his friends, and but he's not just a faceless mook. It turns out, it's revealed in the course of the it's a little short story arc where this duke basically frames. He makes Rimuru's friend, dwarven friend, angry. The dwarf punches him, and so he basically gets them all banished from the city by railroading them through the court and lying in the court, and it's real. And it's revealed in a shocker that the king who presided over the court, he knew. And he said, I've been waiting. I'm so disappointed because I've been waiting so long for you to shape up or ship out, and you disappoint me over and over again. And here you lie to me right to my face in my own courtroom. And did you know? And then he shows the Duke this bottle of healing potion. You realize what this is? This is a perfect healing potion. Perfect restoration. And that little slime that you ridiculed, insulted, and got exiled from my kingdom, he can produce them by the gallon. And you have destroyed any relation, any communication I might have had with him. He's going to go back to his forest and never speak to us again. You've cost me. And he says, thank you for your years of loyal service, but you're out. And the villain breaks down in tears. And you get to see it. He isn't just mean and spiteful. It's revealed that he has, since he was a child, dreamed of working for the king and of earning his favor and his praise. And he's utterly shamed to realize how much he's failed his king. And he gives a character, suddenly character depth. Shoom, Now you're looking at this image here. Okay, that round thing in the girl's arms, that's his jelly form. That's what he looks like when he's a slime. But among other things he's gotten the power to change his shape. So he can change his shape into anything that he has consumed. He not only gains their abilities, he gains the ability to change shape into a number of species. In this case, that pale blue-haired character, that's him as well. The story behind how he gets that form, it's all there in the first 9 episodes. It'll break your heart a little bit. But it gives him a cause and a crusade to go on, because I'll let you watch the show and let you find out for yourself. He's got by the end of episode 9, he's got a tribe of goblins, a pack of storm wolves, the dire wolves, under his command. And he's also ended up with a family of ogres. That's the ones with the horns. apparently ogres have horns in Japanese mythology. I don't know. So I'm really looking forward to seeing more of it. And this is an interesting twist on the story, is that monster races don't have names. Individual monsters do not have names. And to give a monster a name, it raises them in power and level. Makes them bigger, stronger, more powerful. And in fact, when Rimuru and the dragon, they befriended each other. Rimuru did not know this. He wasn't told this. Nobody told him this. The dragon made a gift, gave him a name. It basically called him Rimuru Storm. You know, and Rimuru thought it was just him, you know, the dragon adopting him as sort of a brother, you know, sort of a blood brother, this thing. And in return, he gave a name to the dragon. And the thing of it is that he doesn't know that it vastly increased both their power. And when he gets to the Goblin tribe, when he meets the Goblin tribes, they're all tiny and puny, and there's the size of small children, and their tribal leader is this rickety old goblin who can barely walk with a cane. And he gets informed that none of them have names, because they can communicate without speaking. And when due to magic, everybody can talk to each other and still understand each other, so they don't need, they don't really have names among the monsters. But he thinks, that isn't very nice. He says, he learns that the only tribe member who had a name was the chieftain's son, who died fighting the dire wolves. And he thinks about it, and he goes, that's kind of sad. Nobody else has a name, and so he starts giving everybody names. And he doesn't realize what he's doing is that he's spending his magic to get to give them each a name. And he knocks himself out for 3 whole days before he can recharge his batteries. But by the time he's done, everybody in the tribe has a name. And he wakes up, and the chieftain, who is this rickety old goblin, the size of a child, is now 6 foot tall and rippling with muscle. And so he basically, that's one of the things he does, is that he'll every time he gets a new member, a new monster in his group, he gives them a name. Just as a matter of just makes them stronger and more powerful. And he can do it because he is so magically powerful. Well, I thought it was a very interesting, variation on things. Now, I will tell you this much. Yeah, it's from Japan. Okay, so be warned. The second episode, I think... No, not the second episode, but... I can't remember what episode it was. But eventually... They go out to celebrate making a contract with the dwarves. Basically, they needed somebody to teach the goblins were living caveman style, just not even Stone Age. And he realizes we need some craftspeople to come here, teach these guys how to make their own clothes, how to make proper houses, so on and so forth. And so they go to the nearest human and dwarven city. It has humans, dwarves, and elves. And they go to that first city, and they manage to make a contract with a couple of dwarves who agree to come back to the Goblin Village and and teach the people all the stuff they need. And they go out to celebrate, and they go out to what is a hostess inn. I don't know if it's called an inn or what, but this is no, it's not a brothel. It's a common thing in Japan. They have hostess restaurants and the like, hostess taverns. Basically, their big selling point is they have lots and lots of beautiful women who wait on you hand and foot. And that's pretty much it. Apparently, the theme song for the average Japanese man is "So Ronri." And yeah. In fact, the only reason he has a humanoid form is a little bit of a tragedy. Again, that's you learn all about it in the first 9 episodes. Because he meets another person from Japan. It's a girl from Japan, and she didn't die and get reincarnated there. She was summoned there and made into a slave and made to do pretty awful things before she broke away from her master. And I'll leave that for you to watch. The form he has, it's actually androgynous, and that is established. It's neither male nor female. He has no gender. Well, basically because he didn't have a gender as a slime, so he doesn't have one in his human form either. Funny and very charming, and yes, and it has surprising moments of depth. Well, I'll go ahead and tell you, this girl in his arms, she's dead by episode 8. She's the Japanese girl. What it is that an evil sorcerer who was basically the Demon King, he calls himself the Demon King, he summoned her, bound a fire spirit to her. To give her its powers, and basically made her a slave. And the thing of it is if she loses control of the Ifrit, it takes over her. It takes her over. And the sad thing, what it is that she was a little bitty girl. She was no more than 10. And she was a little girl in 1940s Japan. And her city had just been firebombed. Her mother had just died before her eyes in a ball of flame, and she was horribly burned just as she was summoned to this world. And the wizard's like, oh, well, maybe the wizard looks at her and he says, oh, well, she's alive. And he sees that she's covered with burns, and his first thought is to bond her with a fire elemental. Just to establish that he's a real evil a-hole. And eventually, she's been living in Japan in this world. She doesn't age because of the Ifrit bound to her. And it's established. A fortune teller informs Rimuru that he is destined to meet, the red string of fate. He's destined to meet this girl, and they're to be together forever, and it's her. But after all these years, the Ifrit has finally gotten so powerful that it takes her over and begins destroying the Goblin village. And the only way they can stop it is Rimuru they have to fight her, and Rimuru ends up having to kill the Ifrit. But unfortunately, that takes it takes the curse off of her, but it also basically condemns her to death. Her dying request is that he not bury her on this world, and that he consume her body instead. And he grants it, and as a consequence, he gets this humanoid form. And episode 9 is basically he swears he's going to sooner or later he's going to find this Demon King and make him pay for what he did to this girl. And there's one scene where Rimuru, she's mourning over the fact that she lost her mother. Her mother, she's over 100 years old at this point. And she's remembering the last she saw of Japan was basically it was a burning wasteland. And he shows her. It's a beautiful moment. He uses his abilities, his powers, to talk to her mind to mind. He shows her images of modern Japan. And how he shows her the city of Tokyo is just these beautiful skyscrapers and anything, and she's just literally weeping for joy, seeing that her homeland has recovered and it has become such an incredible thing. And then she up and does, and I'm like, oh man, that sucks. But still, it's, even despite that, it manages to be very sweet, very charming, and a good bit of fun too. So, I will confess that I did not miss the parallels between this story, this anime, and my own writing. For instance, my story, The Warcrafter. Basically, you take a guy who's and drop him into a world that's a absolute crapsack world, but he starts leveling up like mad, to put it simply. And a heavy dose application of insider knowledge plus common sense and some out-of-the-box thinking and powers, and he's mopping the floor with everybody. So yeah, don't know quite what quite sure what I feel about that. What I should think about that. Well, anyway, like I was saying, in the middle of about the third or fourth episode is when they celebrate the by going to a courtesan tavern where basically, yeah, it's from Japan, boobies everywhere. No nudity or sex or anything, just lots of gynexing, let's put it that way. And for those who don't know, bubbly, 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 bubbly. And the girls all fawn all over him. Oh, he's so adorable. He's like... And this guy is like a 40-year-old... He's a 40-year-old virgin in every sense of the word. He never had a date, never had a girlfriend. He's like, is this paradise? How are they related? How or who related? Oh, my story. Well, it's basically the same concept, loosely stated. Cosmic entity drops ordinary Joe into a different world, gifting him with powers which rapidly become OP. And he starts leveling up and min-maxing like crazy. Okay, I'm gonna have to run to the restroom. I will be right back in about 5 minutes. Feel free to enjoy the music. Sorry about that, but I'll be right back. Well, back again. Sorry to keep you waiting. I really need a please stand by sign. Oh, work on that in a minute. Well, Adrian isn't overpowered by the standards of World of Warcraft, but let's consider he's a werewolf to start off with. Superhuman strength, speed, agility, and natural weapons such as claws and teeth. He'd be a nasty handful under any superhero genre you care to name. But he's also a World of Warcraft druid, which gives him the power to shapeshift into about a half dozen different animals, land, sea, and air, and cast long-range spells and explosive blasts. He also happens to be an engineer and an enchanter, which means he can make magic, which means he can enchant a suit of armor, a shield, and a sword, and give it to the robot he built to kick your ass. So, whether he's overpowered or not is possibly an issue of context. And he's also technically invisible to the biggest boogeymen in the setting. He at one point he even delivers a curb stomp battle to her. So, you know. I had some guy claim that, you know, that another person talking about, he was talking in a different forum about a different fan fiction, but it was a worm fan fiction. He was talking, you know, if you have to write it so that Contessa's power doesn't work on your protagonist, to you can't work around her, you're a terrible writer. And for those who don't know, Contessa is the villainess I was speaking of. She has a power that is called Path to Victory. As in, she literally cannot lose. There are only certain things in canon that she is unable to do a path around, and those include one particular superhero, all the Endbringers, and Scion himself, who is the ultimate big bad. She can't play around. But anybody else, anything else, any other circumstances, all she has to do is ask her power what the path is, how to accomplish the goal she has in mind, like. And it will give it to her in steps that she has to take. You know, path to finding a free $1,000, and it'll tell her things like walk X number of steps north, hop 3 steps to the right, turn a key in a lock, and it'll just give her no context, no explanations. But if she follows the steps exactly, whatever goals she set, she will accomplish. If she decides, defeat the Justice League, and it'll give her a path anywhere from, hundreds of steps long, but as long as she keeps following it, she'll defeat the Justice League, the entire Justice League. Says she's basically the ultimate Mary Sue. Anything she does works. And I'm like, my word, how can you possibly, look, the definition of this character is you have to write her out in order to get around her. The only way the protagonist, the only way the original author could keep the heroine from being thwarted by her was by constantly, keeping her preoccupied with other things she couldn't plot. I mean, this is the only reason that he had to, handicap her in order to keep her from God-moding her way through the entire series by herself. By definition, you have to have some sort of loophole around her powers. And I pointed that out to him. He doesn't care. He doesn't care. He's right, That's why I kind of hated on her so much, because she's, you can't beat me. The kind of character, she's the kind of character that a 5-year-old child makes up. Super, you can't beat me, man. You can't touch her because she has her magic force field on. And nothing can break her force field. It's a child's interpretation of Superman. You can't beat him because he's Superman. Wow, man. I'll tell you, there's one author. There's one fanfic where he's writing fan fiction about a hero. He's this first-person character is a guy who has an orange lantern ring. It's like Green Lantern, except the orange lantern, the orange light is about greed and desire, and he becomes a hero. He does this by constantly reminding himself that what it is he desires more than anything, and meditating on his hierarchy of needs and wants. Anyway, this guy's got a real hard-on, hate-on for Christianity. He wrote one passage where he wrote one chapter, most recent chapter. His character, the women on Wonder Woman's island were asking him about Christmas, and he proceeds to read the fedora neckbeard version of it to them. Once upon a time, these people worshipped a god. He was this God, which was named God, was real professional, and he's mean and he's pushy and he makes all these demands and he makes all these arbitrary rules. And I couldn't resist commenting. I had to go and comment. I put in. I stated, okay, if you don't know too much about the time, or if you don't know too much about that time, all the rules, like don't eat pork, they seem arbitrary, but they did have very fundamental reasons. The dietary and uncleanliness laws, they were a rudimentary form of hygiene and sanitation. They had everything from cleaning to sterilization to sanitation to quarantine. It doesn't seem very reasonable to ban ham sandwich, but you got to realize pigs, most of the animals that were forbidden to the Jews to eat, they're carrion eaters, or worse. You realize that oysters thrive in sewage? Now, I want you to think about what kind of health conditions that would bring down on you. The point of the, then I point out, I pointed out a couple of examples that people like to get bent out of shape. The Bible says you could stone your children. Well, no, they already had that. People don't realize at that time, every civilization on Earth, you could kill your kids and not think a thing of it. All the way up until the time of Greece and Rome, you could kill your kid because you just decided one day you didn't like the look on his face. Children weren't people; they weren't even livestock. They were possessions to be disposed of by the parents at their whim. That law didn't give them permission to kill their kids. That law required them to go, if they even thought about it, to go before the elders of the tribe. And the elders of the tribe had to be in perfect agreement that the child was, a monster beyond redemption. And it's of note that not once in their entire history did they take that course of action. Not one case. Yes, it said that they could own slaves. The problem is that what they meant by slaves isn't what we mean by it. What they had was bond servants. They were generally people who were working off a debt. They were only to be enslaved for a specific amount of time. They were to be provided for food, clothing, shelter, medication. And if they were abused, their contract was null and void. They could leave. And in fact, the law stated that if you saw a runaway slave, you weren't to turn them back in, because that was considered grounds, just sufficient proof that they were being mistreated, that they were running away from it. The average slave enjoyed a better. The average slave in the Hebrew nation enjoyed a better standard of living and a better contract deal than a contracted employer today. And I went down it. I listed several of these. The Hebrew laws are the first examples of things like rights and protections for the accused, rights and protections for women, for children, for slaves, in a day and age where these things did not even exist as concepts in most societies. And I pointed that all out, and he just, he blew every fuse he had. I'm not gonna let that, just profanity, and I'm not gonna let some hateful old man in the sky tell me what I can do and can't do. Just patient. You want a picture of what he said? Just basically picture a toddler standing there with his pampers around his ankles, screaming at the top of his lungs with snot running down his face. You can't make me. That was the level of intellectual discourse that I got from this. Well, and as a matter of fact, God's name was not God. He has several names. in the Hebrew language. Elohim. Jehovah. Which was possibly pronounced Yahweh. Because he's a typical child. He just doesn't. He's an angry little child. I didn't bother saying a word. I didn't type a word of whatever. Whatever is just, you're a waste of my time now. Imagine yourself an intellectual, but in reality, you're just a screaming, angry child. Everything that guy has, the culture he lives in, the laws that protect him, the culture that surrounds him, the achievements that his civilization has made, you can trace them right back to Christendom. All these other nations were doing just fine without your God, Oh yeah, they were doing just great. Just the Inca, like the Incans and the Aztecs, yeah. They were just doing just dim dandy, weren't they? Couldn't frickin' figure out the wheel, but they could rip out your heart with no trouble at all. Well, they were doing Jim frickin' dandy in China, China and Japan, where they could test out an edge of their sword on the nearest peasant just to see if it was worth what they paid for it. And a peasant's life could, a samurai could turn around and kill a peasant for bumping into them. Oh yeah, it's just glorious civilization there. There's just, no telling how high they would have ascended. If it hadn't been for Christian, oh yes, actually it is. They hit the plateau and stayed there. A miserable barbarian society that didn't go anywhere until Christianity intruded on their isolationism. Native Americans, American Indians, hunting each other like wild animals clear up until the time Columbus set foot on the shore. You white men wiped out our civilization. What civilization? Out there killing each other for thousands of years before they even knew a white man existed. This was our tribal lands for thousands of years, and it was the tribal lands of somebody else before you showed up. Killed them all off. I'm fully on it. I'm not going to argue with the guy today. It's just not worth it. He'll scream and wail and snuffle, and Mommy Precious, all his friends and associates, will come running up. How dare you pick on him? How dare you upset his feelings? And coddle and swaddle him and tell him how enlightened and noble he is for putting up with such an ogre like me. I'm not kidding you. Every day, every single day, Jonah, Hillside, bucket of popcorn and a camera. I'm serious, man. People, people didn't understand why. When I was a kid, I didn't understand why. Why did he hate those people so much? Why didn't he want to tell them about God? Why didn't he want to? Why did he want them to die? And then I've had to deal with humanity for a while, and just see how wretched and ungrateful and just nasty and hateful and you can't you don't have to stretch your imagination too hard to imagine what it's like trying to live even a passably decent life, and all around you is just unspeakable wickedness, and they alternate between persecuting you for how you live and laughing at you and ridiculing you for being such a naive fool. And you're struggling, and meanwhile they're farting through silk boxers. That's the real fun part. It's you turn on the television. It's a constant reminder of just how unfair the world really is. That people shouldn't have gone any better. Shouldn't have done anything more for themselves but flip burgers in some forgotten nowhere town somewhere. Are sitting there out in Hollywood, living like the devil himself, and still making millions of dollars. How do you think I feel? I look at these people from the Rolling Stones. You ever seen those guys? You seen pictures of those guys lately? They look like beef jerky. They're like in their 80s, and they have done everything. The booze, drugs, women, just outrageous, riotous behavior, and everything under the sun, and it's like they're indestructible. At least I don't have to worry about my grandnieces or great grandnieces or nephews worrying about them getting on drugs. Those assholes did them all. The only way my descendants are going to be able to get high is by drying the cast of the Rolling Stones out, grinding them up in powder, and snorting them. The smallpox and the flu devastated. Yeah, it did devastate the Native Americans. But if somebody had gotten there with basic hygiene first, I think things might have turned out a little bit better. It's petulant of me to be sitting here complaining about this guy anyway. I knew what he was. I tried to be reasonable, but I was still, I perfectly aware. I knew what he was, reading his stuff, sitting here, commenting on it in a way that was guaranteed. No matter what you're gonna do, it's gonna be a red rag to a bull. The only thing I know for sure is, what I said was basic, just an inkling of the truth. And, he's shown himself for what he is, and the way he reacted. And one might hope that somebody out there goes, maybe this atheist guy isn't such the enlightened individual he puts himself out as. One might hope that. Not getting anything done. This has been a very unproductive week for me. Very unproductive. I've just been tired all the time. I just I spent about half the night sleeping sitting on the edge of the bed. Starting to wonder if it wouldn't be a better way to just lay the mattress completely on the floor. That way I don't have to. Well, it's complicated. I gotta basically just sort of balance on one knee and then roll over into the bed to get into the bed, because of the way my legs are. And if I slide out and I sit up for any reason, and if after a certain age, you have to get up a couple of times a night. Let's put it that way. And you sit back down and you have to go through that whole rigmarole to get back in. You're so tired you can't even do that. And you fall asleep sitting on the edge of the bed trying to convince yourself to get up, turn around, and climb in. So many things. Consequently, I haven't gotten really solid sleep in quite some time. And the longer I stay in bed like that, I just sleeping a couple hours, waking up, sleeping, waking up, sleeping, waking up, sleeping. Eventually, it just gets it gets really unpleasant because I start having really strange dreams, and I start waking up from those things feeling even more tired. Not to mention unsettled. And sleep too long lying on my back, and the fluid in my legs. I retain a lot of water and fluid in my legs, and it goes up through my body. And the next thing I know, I wake up and the left half of my face feels swollen because I have to sit up and let my sinuses drain and everything. I get up, force myself. Eventually, I force myself to get up, and I sit down in front of the computer, and I can't, unless I'm doing something past, just can't focus. Oh, the funny thing is that this dingleberry, he's more than an anti-theist. He's going around talking about how the Greek gods were a better deal than the Hebrew one. At least they weren't so uptight. You moron. He'd rather get down with a bunch of pagan deities for whom rape, incest, and cannibalism were the orders of the day. Who literally waged a war that destroyed entire civilizations because 3 of them got petty over who deserved Discord's apple. Just crap like that. I'm like, dude, you're freaking ignoramus. The problem is that an atheist will eventually become an anti-theist. You leave them alone long enough. And don't try and tell me, I've seen it happen. These people, they start out, they're all so enlightened, we can get along with our separate beliefs. Let it go long enough. Do not be unequally yoked together. That's an image from the Bible. They've tried that before. What it is that back then, if you had 2 oxes, you put 2 oxes on a yoke to pull a plow. If you had 2 mules, you put 2 mules on a plow. But if you tried to yoke a mule on one side and an ox on the other, the ox would drag the mule to death. Just being bigger and stronger, and the strain would kill the ox too. That's why, as a Christian, you're supposed to avoid getting entangled with unbelievers as much as you can. Got these fools who think that they can marry a non-believer and that their life is just going to be just fine. Like, oh, brother. Either you're going to have to give up your beliefs or you're going to have to give up your wife. Those are your choices. Because your beliefs will not coexist in the same house with somebody who rejects them. I'm not saying that atheists are incapable of being moral. Atheists are perfectly capable of being, as moral as any other human being, any other soul lost or saved. But an atheist has basically declared they refuse to believe that any law or moral code is absolute. Because if you say that there is no, they're basically saying that there is no authority behind any moral code. Which means, their opinion is the only one that matters about what's right or wrong. And ask yourself how long it'll be before they drag you to death. Now you take I've pointed this out before, it's been pointed out by other scholars, is that, yes, an atheist living in a Christian society will tend to be just about as moral as the Christians around him. But he will not have much in common with an atheist from, say, a Muslim society, or a Buddhist society, or a Shinto society, or whatever you care to name. The atheists generally they're like a goldfish. grow to fit the shape and size of the boulder, and they acclimate themselves to that. Which makes living with them bearable. But once they gain power and become the standard by which society measures its morals and ethics, it's a rapid, it's a bobsled ride to hell. That's basically what happened in revolutionary France. It's what happened in Germany during World War II. It's what happened to the Soviet Union. It's what happened to communist China. It's what happened to the people in North Korea and in Vietnam and no. Excuse me, I drifted off there for a minute. Lost focus. Riots in France. There have been riots in France every shoot. There have been riots in France in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. Inspire me with something new, you know what I'm saying? We are so much more civilized than the Americans. Hee hee. Ha ha. We fought in your general direction, yeah. Gonna be reading your new lines in Arabic, buddy. Wait long enough. What a surprise! They're finally they're having to raise their taxes to pay for all the freebies they're handing out, and people are objecting to that. What a surprise! They're already ridiculously high taxed. You can't tax people on surprise. You know, it reaches a threshold. You got too many people in the government think that they can keep raising taxes forever and ever and ever, and it doesn't work that way. Doesn't work that way. You hit a threshold, and everything goes boom. terribly tired. Promised myself I'd get an early sleep tonight. I'd sleep, I'd get up early in the morning and spend a nice day on just constructive efforts. I finally got my first shipment of groceries from IGA. I'm like, yay! It was like the day before yesterday, but yay! I'm like, yay! I even managed to get my fried chicken. Finally. It's big, nice aluminum foil tray, full of chicken. And it is good. It's very good chicken. This is it's way ahead of Walmart chicken, I'll tell you that. Better quality, better taste. I can taste that they were cooking this stuff next to the green beans too. Get a slight hint of green bean flavor on some of it. You ever notice that when your mom made chicken, made a chicken dinner or turkey dinner, you could taste whatever it was that had been cooked next to it. Anyway, yeah, I'm stocked in for a while, so that's good. Gonna have to resist the impulse to spend money on stuff. That's the thing of it. Now, I'm finding myself running dry for things to talk about, things to issue. having trouble staying awake. Finding myself mulling over what I just said far too long. You know, I swear, the feed on this thing is ridiculous. I'm sorry, I'm just... Oh, my tank's empty. Did manage to run a raid with my guild, with my online guild. First raid I've ever run with a guild. Much better coordinated. we still couldn't quite beat the last two bosses, so we had to call it out. Oh. Ow. Well, I hear that a lot of the Hondurans that marched up to Tijuana are turning back. Wouldn't it have been nice if Mexico had believed us when we said we were going to seal the wall, close the border if they didn't do something? Would have been real nuts if they'd actually enforced their own border policies. Those people are heading back. They're honked. They say that they got used. They did. They're talking about people who came to them and told them how easy it would be to get into the United States. Just walk across the border. They were set up. They were used. And they lost out. The people that tried to use them failed at what they were trying to accomplish. Wall nothing. They'll be lucky if they get away without us putting machine gun towers every few hundred feet. It's a nasty piece of work. Yeah, the people that were in there, they were just rattled with disease. There are criminals all striped in there. People with criminal records that make your hair stand on end. Yeah, it was a farce. It was a mess. God have pity on the actual innocent people that might have been in that mob as it was traveling north, because God knows what might have happened to them. I'm getting kind of tired of these articles that come in Facebook. The Clintons have made this mistake now. Oh, the Obamas made this mistake. They're on the horns of it. Call me when one of them's arrested. I'll start believing in our country's system when I start seeing these bald-faced criminals getting arrested. The day they arrest and throw in jail a congressman is the day that I will start being a true believer in the legal system of the United States again. They won't, of course. They never will. You're asking the chicken thief to police himself. I'm sorry. Okay, it has been 2 hours. I am already starting to fall asleep in my seat. I'm not happy because I wanted to get at least a few things done, but I just got no juice, got no energy. Starting to wonder how much I got left in me. But I'm gonna go ahead and call it a night. Spend 2 hours, a little bit of talk. I think I'm gonna try and put the show on a little earlier tomorrow sometime. It's while I'm still awake. It's only 8. It's only 8 o'clock right now, but I am, just flat. Well, I figure we all better get some sleep. So, you all take care of yourselves, all right? Now, those of you who are interested in supporting me and my artwork and my writing, feel free to stop by my Patreon, www.patreon.com/RHJunior. You can make a small, as little as a dollar a month. Helps keep me operating, helps uh, keep me this side of this, helps keep me going. Keeps the lights on and the keeps the lights on and the bulldog fed and a roof overhead. So, well, I also take commissions, and I have several that are stocked up that I am currently working on. It's been slow going, but I'm going to be getting them out. They will be done. Just a matter of grinding down on them. You know. I'm going to go ahead and call it a night. Like I said, I'm going to go ahead and say goodnight and wish you all a good evening. Y'all take care of yourselves, okay? Good night.